Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I've got some very, very important developing stories. The Heliophant YouTube channel has uploaded a video for the first time in 11 years since the famed iPetGoat 2 release in 2012. Now, iPetGoat 2 is a very important animated short film, that actually marked the beginning of this channel. The very beginnings. It's one of the first things that we began to decode over the last 10 years. Gosh, it's been a long journey, hasn't it? Now, the video that Heliophant uploaded on their YouTube channel is not the kind of video that you might think. It's not a sequel to iPetGoat 2. We're going to break that down today at the very end of the show, because I found all kinds of stuff at the old port in Montreal where it is filmed. To me, it feels like an Easter egg video where you have to decode it and find what the true meaning is, which is what we did and what we will do at the end of the show today. We're also going to get into Russia's own electric kingdom and expose that for what it is. I'm going to give you my thoughts on that. And Trump is making promises again, saying that he is going to end abortion if reelected. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on all those topics. I've got a couple of shark attack videos for you as well. Let's go ahead and get started on today's show. This is what we'll be covering at the end of the show. Now, the entire world is moving toward an electric future that we've called the electric kingdom. And I don't think people are really up to speed on what that really means for all of us. The way that we know that the whole world is headed toward this is that even countries that claim to be our enemies are basically going along with the same exact agenda. And it's because there aren't any real enemies in the world order. I watch a YouTube channel here on YouTube. It's a Russian family, and they say what they can. Obviously, they're very highly censored, and it's funny because it isn't Russia that's censoring them, it's YouTube. Now, I'm sure they have some fears about what they can and can't say in their country, obviously, but every time that they hesitate about what they're going to say next, they always say that it's YouTube's algorithms and YouTube censorship that could shut down their channel. And it's very telling, isn't it, that an American platform is censoring what people can say in a Russian country where we always point the finger at in terms of the people that are censoring people. But it's interesting because the Russian family, it's called Dan Shikos is the name of the channel. And after watching them for, I think, about a year now, I've realized that what they're trying to really do is what we're trying to do in channels like ours. They're trying to break down the right-left paradigm to help you understand that all of the people at the top are on the same side. And through division, they bring about chaos. And so in their roundabout way on their channel, they're trying to expose the worldwide agenda. I picked up an Easter egg on their channel. This is a screenshot from Dan, who is a father. He also has his wife and his little girl. He's walking around the streets of Russia. And these are some of my favorite videos because you actually really get to see what life is like over there. And how people are all the same. We're all the same. We're all the same. And it's information like this that I feel like is the most valuable, hiding in plain sight. Now, in case you didn't know, this is an electric car charging station. And Russia is actually a methane-rich nation. They sell their natural gas and oil to a lot of other countries. But weirdly, Russia does not subscribe to the climate agreements and the whole climate agenda. So why are they pushing the electric vehicle technology? I found this list of charging stations for electric vehicles in Russia. Look at every single region has charging stations in it. The list goes on and on and on. Why are they moving towards electric car technology? It makes absolutely no sense. Can you now see the hypocrisy? Can you now see that the entire system is one cohesive movement? That basically their goal is to cull the human population by pretending to have enemies and then getting men and women to fight and die. Now, these evil people at the top are only limited by their effectiveness of how many weapons or how lethal the weapons are. That's their only limitation as to how many people they can sacrifice. Electric car technology in a gas-rich nation makes absolutely no sense. Yet, Russia is planning to boost electric car technology. Let's read this. The world's largest country is pushing ahead with plans to expand its electric car production. Why would you do this if you don't care about the environment and you have a bunch of methane and natural gas? Just so you know, pushing forward with electric cars is kind of like going next door to your neighbor and saying, "Hey, do you want to have a race? You get in your car and I'll get on my tricycle and let's see who wins." Of course, the car is going to win. Electric technology actually hampers a country unless you believe the climate agenda and you want to buy the climate lie, which, of course, electric technology is much more harmful to the environment than burning some gasoline, because you have to mine all this stuff out of the ground. It goes bad relatively quickly. You have to dispose of these toxic chemicals. And no one has figured out how they're going to do that yet. Not to mention the slave labor that's required to get this stuff out of the ground. It's a very dirty business. And you're tearing up the environment. You're literally digging up the ground and tearing it up. Now, the argument can be made that gasoline is the same thing, but it's kind of not, isn't it? You dig a small hole, you pull stuff up out of the earth, and yeah, it can spill, but I think if you did a side-by-side comparison of the damage of a spill of oil compared to basically cutting off a whole top of a mountain with machinery and slave labor, I don't think the two really compare. So, Russia is basically giving themselves a handicap by pushing forward with this technology. It makes absolutely no sense unless you understand the worldwide agenda. So what is the reason why countries are pushing electric technology? Especially if they don't even really subscribe to climate change. Look at Russia's score on the climate action tracker. Of course, this is all hogwash, but this is what the other world order gives Russia in terms of a climate change score. How much that their policies and everything align with climate change and helping the environment. And they've been given a rating of critically insufficient, poor rating. literally nothing they're doing except electric car technology is moving toward the environment. So what is this about then? The Russian electric kingdom. Well, it's about control. Now, we all know this, but our job here on this channel is to arm you with information to share with the sleep people. And this is what you tell them. Why is Russia pushing for a technology that clearly gives them a tactical disadvantage for its citizens, its military, when they have an abundance of natural gas, all the natural gas that they could use for centuries to come? And when you explain it that way, that's when people's eyes start opening to why wars start and who dies in those wars. Essentially, it's the culling of humanity. You see, the job of world leaders, their true job, is to work together to destabilize populations, sacrifice as many people as they can. How? By convincing you to give up your own life through lies, coercion, ignorance, pride, ego, hero complex. So, the devil gets a 2-4, doesn't he? Not only did he get you to kill yourself, he gets a sacrifice out of it too. Notice how none of these world leaders will ever face off with each other one-on-one to settle disputes. They trick you into doing it for them. And that's the tragedy of it all. Now, let's get into some other news. Bo Jiven is going after Hunter. Well, not really. Sounds funny, right? This is Fox News. But the truth of the matter is Biden's going after hunting rights. Now, we told you this was going to happen. We've been talking about this. Every time I did one of those videos complaining about the fishing, remember I would talk about that and I would tell you guys, all this licensing and rules about fishing and these fines that you get, fishing out of season, has nothing to do with protecting the fish. It has everything to do with control. And we've done videos on that going back 6 or 7 years. What is Bo Jiven doing? Well, he's placing hunting and fishing limits on federal land. But hunters like myself, we see this for what it is. This is a segue into expanding hunting rights across America, or the attack on those hunting rights across America. So what is going on here? Well, they don't like self-sustainability. They don't want you living off the land. They don't want you exercising your God-given Adamic right to live on this earth and take from it freely. They don't want that. They want to control that process. Because guess what? When you interact directly with the land, something spiritual happens, doesn't it? Something very spiritual happens. You connect to God on a much deeper level when you're in the land and acting on faith. This is when amazing things happen, like out of nowhere, your food walks right in front of you and you can like hunt it when you're at the edge of starvation. This is when you become one with the wilderness and the forest as part of the system that God originally set up. We're not supposed to be plucked out of nature and put in the Pharaoh's pyramids. We're supposed to be one with it and have dominion over it. Not be just a cog in the wheel of it, We're supposed to have dominion over it. So when the enemy steps in and starts putting a bunch of rules to stand between you and your God-given rights, a strange thing happens. He's also separating you from God. The enemy does not like self-sustainability because the enemy wants to control you, doesn't it? Now, we've seen the progression of the infringement of these rights throughout the decades. It used to be very, very inexpensive to get a fishing license. There didn't even used to be fishing licenses at all. You could go out and catch what you wanted. Now, I don't believe in extreme waste. Someone's wasting things, yes, they should be in trouble for that. But if you're one person harvesting 1 day's or 1 week's worth of food, you should be left completely alone. Now, if you're a commercial harvester, there should be probably some rules for that, because you're harvesting above and beyond your daily use or weekly use to feed you and your family. But for the person that's harvesting from nature, there shouldn't be too many limits, but there are. And over the decades, it has become less and less cost effective to harvest from nature. With all the licenses and rules and seasons, it goes far, far beyond their claims of sustaining wild populations. Let me give you an example. Trout fishing. I live on the White River. Some of the best trout fishing in the entire world. Now, they stock most of those trout, and that's great. But when you pay your license and your fee to fish for those trout, then they put a bunch of rules on you. Why don't they use the money that the people are paying and just put more trout in the river and take all the rules away? It makes absolutely no sense that you would force people to pay for the trout and then put a bunch of rules on them. It's like this. I'll tell you a funny story. One time my dad, I will never forget this. Dad took me to a toy store. I don't know, I was probably 8 years old. And this toy store, I can't remember the name of it. It was on, it was in Stockton, on the corner of Thornton Road and Hammer Lane, I believe. Many of you will remember that toy store. If you lived in Stockton or have ever driven through Stockton, but it was from like 30 or 40 years ago. Obviously, I'm 50 years old. And I'll never forget. It was one of the poignant moments I remember with my father, despite all of his dysfunction. He took me into the store and he said, "What do you want, son? Pick anything." And I said, "Dad, I want that remote control car." Now, interestingly, the serpent was always crouching at my door from the very beginning of my life. I had the nightmares and everything. So the car that I picked was a Cobra Mustang. It was white with a black stripe going down the middle of it. And it had a little remote control with it. And I remember it was an upgrade from all the junk toys I'd been getting up to that point in my life. And I was like, wow, my dad actually spent some money on me. So my dad gives me the car. And then he tells me, let me take it to my house, because my mom and dad were divorced at that time. He goes, let me take it to my house and make sure it's okay. And when you come over, you can play with it. He gave me a gift with conditions. And that's how our government is. Everything comes with conditions. Right? Look at all the loans they gave out during the pandemic that now everyone has to pay back. Look at the moratorium on the evictions, but now all of those rents are piled up and you still have to pay, otherwise you get evicted. Some people even have to pay back their stimulus checks. It came with conditions, and that's what my father did with the remote control car. I remember being at my mother's, dreaming about that car, knowing that it was at my dad's house, and I couldn't wait to go over there and play with it. Now, all this sounds silly and stupid, but you got to remember this was the 1980s, and I grew up really poor. And so, guess what happened? I go over to the house, and I go, "Dad, I'm ready to play with my car." He goes, "Oh, your stepbrother started playing with it, and he broke it." See the problem? This is the problem with our government. You can't force people to pay money to catch a fish and then put a bunch of rules on what fish they can catch. Use the money to put more fish in the stream. You got 12,000 people paying, $40, $50 a year. You should have enough money to put more fish in the stream. I'd rather have them put more fish in the stream than hire 5 more people making $60,000 a year with their $60,000 truck and their $10,000 Glock and their laptops and their scopes and their helicopters and their boats to police me, to tell me what fish I can keep and which ones I can't. I'd rather have that than have to be policed. So, what's going on with Bo Jivin? Well, he is putting rules on people who are on federal lands. Now, some people might think, well, no big deal. That's federal land. Well, it is a big deal because this is a segue. They're setting this up. Now, what exactly are they doing here? Well, they're putting limits on the type of ammo you can use and the kind of fishing tackle you can use. They're saying that they're doing away with lead. Now, according to this article, the science says that the lead in these objects, a sinker, a fishing sinker, or an ammo, has no effect on the environment. That's what the science says. But Biden is rejecting that science in favor of putting these rules on these different federal lands. Here are the federal refuges which previously allowed fishing and hunting without this rule. Blackwater in Maryland, Chincoteague in Virginia, Eastern Neck in Maryland, Erie in Pennsylvania, Great Thicket in Massachusetts, Patuxent Research Refuge in Maryland, Rachel Carson in Maine, and Wallops Island Nation in Virginia. This begins on September 1st, 2026. So, some indicators that this is all about control would be deer, for instance. Deer herds are soaring in every state. We have more deer now in every state in America. We have more deer than we ever have in the history of the founding of this country. Deer populations are soaring. There are way too many deer. Yet, deer season only lasts a few days or weeks in most states, doesn't it? So you have to ask yourself why. So there's the update on Bo Jivin and the attack on hunting. Hopefully this doesn't segue into more federal lands and into all states at some point. Now, let's get into some Trump news today. Trump is now saying that he will issue a federal ban on abortion if he's reelected. Okay. Is he going to lock her up too? And why didn't he do this during his first presidency? Why all of a sudden now? I don't believe this. For an adoring crowd of religious conservatives, Donald Trump marked the 1-year anniversary of the end of Roe v. Wade by adopting new language and endorsing the idea of national abortion restrictions. Now, this kind of rhetoric will obviously play to his base. But is it really going to happen? I absolutely think it will not. But this will cause some people who were on the fence about even voting, this will cause them to vote. Trump, who has previously discussed abortion as more of a state issue, told the cheering members of the Faith and Freedom Coalition, "I will fight for you like no president ever on the abortion issue." He did not endorse any specific anti-abortion legislation or time limits in his early 90-minute speech, but he did say there, of course, remains a vital role for the federal government protecting unborn life. So this is just more rhetoric. He knows that he's limited on this and he won't be able to do it. But by saying it, it's going to get people to vote for him. So this was his latest speech. I'll put links to all this for you guys for those of you that are interested. Now, viewer discretion on this next video. This is a shark attack video. It's actually not too gory, but it can be freaky for people who have a phobia of putting their hands in dark places. What you're going to see next is a man get bit by a shark and pulled overboard off of a boat. This is crazy. Let's watch this.
Get him, get him, get him, get him!
What the heck was this guy thinking?
Get him, get him, get him, get him!
Get him, get him, get him! What the heck? Now, of course, the guy was okay. But Fishing 101, for those of you that don't know, anybody who fishes will tell you never, ever, ever reach down into the water to grab your fish when you know that sharks are present. This is what a gaff is for. You gaff the fish, or you pull the fish up out of the water. You don't stick your hand down in the shark-infested waters. Now, it's easier than you might think. Florida is teeming with sharks. If you ever go fishing out in Florida, don't stick your hand in the water, because sharks are in brackish water and they have almost like a sixth sense. And so they can sense and see you much clearer than you can see them. Notice how you couldn't even see the shark in this water, even though it was just beneath the surface. And the guy stuck his hand in, the shark's like, no, that's my fish. And he grabbed him. Unbelievable. Now, we've been telling you guys that there's something going on with these animal attacks. Here's another rare aggressive shark sends pro surfers scrambling in Bali, some kind of surf tournament. Let's watch this here. This is unbelievable.
That's not a dolphin, eh?
No, the shark.
Oh, fuck. That's a fish. Friends, it should be.
Of course you ain't, bro. It's still out there.
Everyone's in.
So obviously these surfers were basically run out of the competition by a bunch of sharks. Weird, right? Now, let me check in with you guys and we'll get into Heliophant. I want to spend some time on this. This is very, very important. Okay, looks like we're all good. Let's get started on this. Now, this is really weird. Heliophant just uploaded their first video since iPad Goat 2 11 years ago. It was filmed on 6/23, the eve of Midsommar. We all know that Midsommar is a ritual sacrifice pagan holiday. This is the video here. Even though it was filmed on 6/23, it was uploaded just yesterday, which was just after the anniversary of the release of iPad Goat 2, which released on June 24th, 2012. Now, if you didn't know, the release anniversary of iPad Goat 2 falls on Midsommar this year. Now, at first glance, I saw this upload. Many of you also did. You actually messaged me yesterday and you said, Casey, Heliophant just uploaded a video. It's the only video they've uploaded in 11 years since iPad Goat 2. I was already on it. I saw it come up in my feed. And at first glance, it just appears to be some random people walking through the old port of Montreal. But upon closer examination, what I found next is chilling. Now, the comments are turned off for this video, As you can see here, no comments. And that means that there's something to this video. Otherwise, they would leave the comments on, right? But as you can see, I'll kind of flip through this. They're essentially walking through along this route toward the Ferris wheel. I'm just going to kind of skip through this. You'll see them kind of past the Ferris wheel. See the Ferris wheel on the right. You see random people walking. Nothing really is being said in the video. And they're walking toward this warehouse off in the distance that you see in the center of your screen. Walking along the waterfront. And I was like, what is this about? Well, just behind this warehouse building, where the video ends, is a pair of Egyptian pyramids. Now, several of you noticed that the video ends at SOS Labyrinth. And of course, this is the maze, right? Some kind of attraction there at the port of Montreal, the old port of Montreal. But I found something unbelievable. This is the route they were walking. You saw those covered shipping containers along the left side. Here is the Ferris wheel on the right. And here's the warehouse where the walk ended. And this is the SOS Labyrinth that we just saw. And all of those were clues pointing to something very cryptic. These pyramids behind the warehouse. What are these pyramids behind the warehouse? The pyramids behind the warehouse is the PY1 pyramid. Here's an image of it here next to the Ferris wheel, all lit up. And apparently this is supposed to be some kind of audio-visual immersive experience. Through the echoes and themed dance parties every Friday and Saturday throughout the summer. Remember, this is midsummer. Look at this, all lit up. And you can see clearly the as above, so below. Now, many of you will remember at the end of iPet Goat 2, there was actually pyramids. Here they are right here. And what happened to those pyramids? They were destroyed. Here's the first meteor or fireball that hits the pyramids. And they are destroyed, all three of them. What is this about? Well, I believe that they're signaling something here. Now, here's what else is weird about this. This warehouse that aligns with the pyramid, as you can see in the background, is aligned to exactly 88 degrees. Here it is right here. The pyramid and the warehouse, the SOS warehouse, SOS Labyrinth, aligned to 88.88 degrees. Now, why is this important? Well, June 24th is the eve of the 88th day after the 88th day of the year. So 88 days into the year and then another 88 days puts you on June 25th. That's the day Michael Jackson died, of course. And the eve of that is June 24th. Now, we've always told you the importance of the opening date of iPet Goat 2. Way back when it started. In fact, it was the beginnings of the revelation of the number 88. All the way back in 2012. So you see all these other channels talking about the number 88. They got it from this channel. Because in 2012, we said iPet Goat 2 released 88 days after the 88th day of the year. And now we have a confirmation, don't we? Because of the alignment of this warehouse at 88.88 degrees, pointing to the pyramid. Weird, right? Now, something else weird happens, though. when I was trying to align this line here and stretch it across the United States, right? Because you got to see where this thing points, right? Where does this 88.88 degree heading point? Watch this. There's the pyramid. There's the alignment. You can go into Google Earth and do this yourself. Don't take my word for it. You use the measuring tool. So I took this thing. There's it from the sky view. The pyramid and the warehouse lined to 88.88 degrees. And when I tried to stretch it across America, the heading kept changing. I was like, why won't it stay on 88 degrees? The further and further you got away from this pyramid and this warehouse, it kept changing. I could not get the number to stick, no matter how slowly I dragged the line across America. The only way to find where this points is to do it visually. So I took the line, I drug it, and I kept checking back. Is it aligning? Is it aligning? And when I finally got all the way to the west coast of California with the line and checked back to make sure it was still aligned, and then looked at the degrees, it came out to 57 degrees. So essentially, 57 is 88. Now this is weird because we've been talking all about the number 57, haven't we? It's some kind of navigational black hole, some kind of portal. There's something weird about this point on the map and the inability of Google Earth to calculate it. Now, where does the line go through? You're probably chomping at the bit. Where does the line extend to, Casey, across America? Well, it goes through a couple of places. 88 degrees back through Boulder, Colorado. It goes directly through Las Vegas. And it ends in Simi Valley, California. Now, what else is going on? Well, in addition to the pyramid destruction at the end of iPet Goat 2 that I just showed you, there's also a clock tower in iPet Goat 2. The clock tower is here, and this clock tower seems to align with the clock tower in Montreal at this port. Let me show you. This is the Montreal clock tower, which is also here at the port. As you can see here, there's the location of it. And you can almost compare the two. That's tomorrow's show, sorry. Here you can see, just to get your bearings, there is the Ferris wheel, which means that the pyramid is somewhere back here, and here is the clock tower. Now, when you compare the two, they do not look visually similar. Let's zoom this up. Here's the clock tower in iPet Goat 2. Let's get this building over here. Here's the clock tower in iPet Goat 2, and here's the clock tower. Let's zoom that out so you can see this a little bit. Here's the clock tower at the Montreal Old Port. And they're not very similar, aren't they? They're a little bit different. The architecture, one's pointed, one's not, kind of. One has like a pyramidal point. One doesn't. But maybe they're symbolically the same. Right? Maybe it's the symbolism that they want us to look at here. So, what is going on with this? I don't know. But I can tell you this. The scene in iPet Goat 2 with the clock tower is a symbolic scene. It's not a real scene. Why? Because it has this alignment, doesn't it? And it has these different parts in this scene of different events that have happened. Events of mass sacrifice. These are the Twin Towers. They fall down in the animated film, iPetGo 2. They fall down. So we know that they're the Twin Towers. This school is Handy Sook, we have to call it. Remember, they put the fence around it afterwards and turned it into dust, just like they turned the towers into dust. Okay, so this scene is symbolic because this clock tower must represent a future sacrifice that has not happened yet. It's the only building structure in the scene that hasn't been destroyed yet, right? So here we are on Midsommar, a very high day of sacrifice in the witches' calendar and different cultures' calendar. We all saw the movie Midsommar. And here is the clock tower that has not been destroyed yet. So you have to ask yourself, is this what's next? Is this what they're signaling in this bizarre video uploaded on Heliophant's YouTube channel? Now, this gets even more creepy. If you didn't think it could get any creepier than this, when you go to look at the clock tower in Wikipedia, look at where it sits geographically on the GPS. There's another 88, isn't there? 44 and 44 in the north latitude location of this thing. There's another 44 in the longitude. Those are 88s. Remember, iPetGo 2 released 88 days after the 88th day of the year. Wow. Now, when did this thing start construction? I hope you're sitting down for this. I don't know what's going on in Canada, but every time I look into Canada, they are knee deep in the occult with all this stuff. Look at the beginning date. They started building this thing on Halloween, 1919. It finished in 1922, and they built this clock tower to honor the sacrifice of World War I soldiers. Now, you got to put yourself back in this time frame here, because 1918 was when we had the pandemic. It was the first worldwide epidemic or pandemic. Influenza. It killed millions and millions of people. So, what does all this mean? It's kind of hard to tell. But why are we breaking this down? We're breaking it down because we're putting these people on notice. If they think we're too stupid to figure it out, I think we may have just figured it out. So, that's what I found on iPetGo 2 and this weird upload. Here's the old Port of Montreal Wikipedia page. I was digging into that. That's how I found all this stuff. Here's iPetGo 2. It has its own Wikipedia page, weirdly. 2012 Canadian animated short film. Released on the eve of 88 days after the 88th day of the year in 2012. 7 minutes long. Wow. And I think that's about it, you guys. Did I cover everything here? Let me see here. I think so. Now, tomorrow, we're going to get into the occult roots of birthdays. And it all goes back to Artemis. Remember Apollo and Artemis? Remember Trump's Artemis program to return to the moon? Well, guess what? Birthdays have their roots in Artemis. So we're going to break all that down tomorrow. We might get between the headlines some more as well. You guys have any questions about all of this? Hopefully I covered all the details of it. Now, that was just scratching the surface. That was literally about 2 hours of research. That was it. There's probably much, much more to it than I just covered. But I guess we'll have to wait and see, right? Yeah, what's going on in Canada? Oh my goodness. Talk about occult in your face. Wow. All right, I'm in the chat, you guys. A missing sub looks like some sort of tsunami creating Mac. Lots more to decode on this. Thank you, you guys. They're planning. 19 on the building. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's because it was began building in 1919. Next to the village. Yeah, did you see that? So we'll have to see. Yeah, Rebecca's from Canada. A lot of you are from Canada. So yeah, what's up with that? Weird. DeSantis declared the year of Artemis in Florida. Oh, wow. See, they're all in on it. They just pretend to be on different sides. All right. Ottawa City logo has 666 in it. Oh, wow. It's been hot here. Very hot. Got up to 100 the other day. I mean, it wasn't too hot. I mean, it was hotter than it's been. Never gets too hot up here. Egg Stain's sister owns Amber Alert. Oh, wow, really? Seriously? Nothing is what it seems, you guys. Breaking out of the Matrix. Absolutely. All right, you guys. Well, I'm going to let you guys to it. Was that really Susan Wojcicki? That's hilarious. That's pretty good. That's a good YouTube channel there. Former CEO. Wow, that's funny. Okay, what else is going on? McAfee death anniversary. Wow. Colleen owns the oceans. Yes, she's trying to sell them back to you so you can have a piece of the ocean, right? The high seas. Okay. Now, a couple of my peach trees. Just a small, quick update on the Honey Milk Ranch. I regret to inform you that I made a fatal error with my peach trees. Many of you will remember I sprayed the salt onto the ground to kill the weeds. Well, 2 of the peach trees, actually 3 of them, I planted in the very place where I sprayed the salt. And I was looking at the trees, and I've been watering them every day or every other day, and I'm like, why are they wilting? Why are they wilting? And then it hit me. Casey, you planted the trees where you sprayed the salt. So it's very, very important that you do not spray the salt where you intend to plant something. This is just some of the challenges of homesteading, you guys. You have to be diligent about this stuff. So at least 2 of the trees are not going to make it. I mean, they're not really trees yet, but 3 of the trees are not where I sprayed the salt, and they're going to be fine. The ones back behind the berry bushes are going to be fine. So I am going to have peaches, and they're actually doing really, really well. But it all hit me, and I was like, how did I miss that? I've just been so distracted lately. You know, there's so many moving parts with all this stuff. I didn't even think. So a couple of the tree, one is already dead. The other 2 are kind of wilting. I'll keep watering them. But I think that's what happened. So, yeah. Honey Milk Ranch confessions. It's not all fun and games on the homestead. Dennis says it's very hot in Southern California. All right. Yeah. Ooh, crushed gypsums remove salt from the soil. Thanks, Ben. Okay, so I have some of that. I've got drywall pieces in a pile not far from the trees that someone told me you should keep that and integrate it into your soil. So I'll break those up with a hammer and sprinkle that in there. Thank you so much for that hack. Thank you. All right. Oh, and then Cheryl made me some peach cobbler. Went over there on I think it was Sunday, and thanks, Cheryl. That was delicious. Thank you so much to you and Jay for always being so kind to me. So move them, says Madeline. I think it's. I mean, I could. It'd be pretty easy to do. The soil's still pretty loose. That's a good idea. Maybe I'll move them, or I'll try the gypsum. I mean, they're tiny. They're like a foot tall. I just don't like to lose any plant, especially when it's given to me as a gift. So, all right, you guys. I'll let you guys get on with your day. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. Love each and every one of you. See you tomorrow. Take care and be safe.